you should see before you die. Basically, movies you should watch. These are like the movies that I have in my collection that I think are worth watching for sure. The Crow, one of the greatest movies of all time. If you don't know who Brandon Lee is, he tragically passed away during the production. Avengers Endgame. My favorite one out of the Avengers movies. Not my favorite MCU movie or not my favorite Marvel movie of all time, but it is definitely one of the best Marvel movies, though. Um, this is the Batman 4 collection, but I'm going to say Batman and Batman Returns are the ones that I am gonna say. Batman Returns being my favorite. I have a soft spot for Forever and Batman and Robin, even though Batman and Robin was bad. The Dark Knight, obviously, way better than Batman Begins and Rises. And of course, Heath Ledger tragically passed away. Small Soldiers, I feel like, is a really underrated movie. Does not get enough love, in my opinion. Sorcerer's Stone, Harry Potter, Chamber of Secrets, which is my favorite one. Prisoner of Azkaban, that is my favorite one out of the books. Not my favorite movie, but my favorite book. The Matrix. It was great for its time, and the sequels were not great, but I don't know. I like the second one, and third one was okay, and the fourth one was just okay. Back to the Future trilogy, one of the best trilogies, period. It has so many quotable lines. Especially the first two are great. I mean, I like the third one too, but it's obviously the weakest one out of the trilogy. But Kill Bill, my favorite Tarantino movie, one of the best action movies, and Kill Bill Volume 2, which is also really good. Reservoir Dogs, another Tarantino movie. X-Men 2, that was really great. Child's Play, just the first two. The other ones are fine, but the first two, Night of the Living Dead, also Dawn of the Dead and Day of the Dead. I have them somewhere, but I just didn't feel like taking them out. The Exorcist. This is a horror classic. If you're a horror fan, for sure you need to watch this one. Aliens and Alien, both movies out of the four. Just the first Mortal Kombat movie. 1925's Phantom of the Opera. My opinion, my favorite version of that. Wizard of Oz, obviously. I haven't seen one person that's not seen this movie. This is a steelbook too, but it's a quotable movie. Everybody's seen Wizard of Oz. It's a classic. Rush Hour, mainly the first two. I mean, the third one's good too, but the first two were good. Kung Fu Hustle, really great underrated action movie. It is really good. Lord of the Rings, the extended edition of the trilogy, all three movies. First rule of Fight Club is you don't talk about Fight Club. Fight Club, definitely one of the greatest movies of all time. It's not just an action movie. It's not just a drama movie. It's not just a comedy movie. It's a mixture of a lot of things, and it is great. Natural Born Killers. I wish I had this one on Blu-ray because I really like this movie. Pulp Fiction. A lot of people love this one. In my opinion, it's good, but not like, oh, the greatest. This one's considered the greatest of all time movies, but in my opinion, it's not. The Spider-Man trilogy, I really do like Spider-Man 3. I don't care what anybody says. But the first two ones are classic, especially number 2. Tobey Maguire, all the characters are great. The Indiana Jones especially 1 and 3. 2 gets got some hate, but 4 gets the most hate. And honestly, I like all 4 movies. I know the fourth one's not perfect or anything. Godzilla, you know, the first original Flash Gordon. It's a cheesy movie, but it's the soundtrack is amazing. Men in Black, mainly just the first one and the third one. The second one's okay. Rumble in the Bronx. This one, I don't know. This one doesn't get enough love. I feel like this is an underrated Jackie Chan flick. Saw, mainly just the first one or the second one or just the first three. Who are you gonna call? Ghostbusters 1 and 2. Um, I feel like Ghostbusters 2 is underrated. So yeah, and I have not watched the 2016 one, and I refuse to. And the last one was pretty good, so I could put a lot of the MCU movies in here, but I just didn't feel like grabbing a lot of them. But Guardians of the Galaxy stands out as one of the best ones. And probably my favorite, actually, MCU movie is The Winter Soldier. Pirates of the Caribbean, The Black Pearl. The first Ninja Turtles movie. Honestly, I could put the second one on there too, but the first one is the best one, obviously. And this is the movie where I thought I was gonna hate it. I really didn't think I was gonna like Scott Pilgrim because of Michael Cera, because I'm not a huge fan of that guy. But Scott Pilgrim is a great movie. It's a video game movie. It's an anime movie. It's a romance. It's a goofy movie. So it's a good movie. So E.T. of course, and the Fly collection. Well, this says like 4 movies, but the first Fly and the remake of the Fly are the ones that I'm going to consider as the movies that you should see out of this. Some people are sick of me talking about Evil Dead, but I love Evil Dead so much, so yes, I'm going to put it on there. Evil Dead, one of the rare occasions where I have it on 4K. Evil Dead 2 to me is the greatest movie of all time and the greatest horror movie of all time. I know some people are like, why do you love Evil Dead so much? But Army of Darkness, the trilogy. Basket Case, however, may not be. It's actually some people's least favorite horror movies I've seen list, but I have a huge soft spot for it. But Silence of the Lambs, classic movie. 31 years ago. Really good movie. Great acting, good music, suspenseful. That's the type of movie. Psycho, another really good horror movie from Alfred Hitchcock. It's one of the first slasher movies ever made. Didn't say it was the first, but Phantasm, a really underrated one that's like really weird. I could say Phantasm 2 is also great too. Jaws, of course. I mean, you gotta have Jaws. Steven Spielberg. This was the movie that made Steven Spielberg big. He had some really good early movies in his career, but this was the big one. Great soundtrack, acting, and everything. The Shining, of course. Kubrick. I wish I had his other movie, the Full Metal Jacket, but I don't have that one. That would have been considered on there, but Scream, it's a classic too. Texas Chainsaw Massacre, one of the great slasher horror movies. Nightmare on Elm Street, mainly the first one and the third one. The Ring, the movie that actually scared the living crap out of me, and it scarred me for a while. It's a rare occasion where Evil Dead 2, and The Ring were the ones that messed me up the most. Oh, and what was that other horror movie? Shoot. Anyway, Nosferatu, 1922. I saw a showing of this in 1999 or early 2000 at like some weird castle movie theater that my mom took me to go see. So, yeah, Nosferatu is a really good movie too. Halloween, of course I have to have that on there. If I have The Exorcist, Nightmare on Elm Street, Halloween has to be in there. I I really like number 2 and it got retconned, but Halloween 1 and Halloween 2, those two I really like the first two movies. I mean, the other ones are fine, but the first two movies. American Gangster, I wish I had this one on Blu-ray, but I don't. The Artist, and this is a really good film here. It's a silent movie, but it's made in 2011. But it's a really good film, really good acting. As you can see, it got Academy Awards on there. Star Wars, of course. I mean, you have to have Star Wars. The original trilogy, I would say any of the trilogy, even the new trilogy, even the prequels, I would say they're all worth watching. Even the spin-off ones, all worth watching, especially Empire, especially New Hope, especially Return, especially Revenge of the Sith. Jurassic Park, the first one. I mean, don't get me wrong, I like number 2 a lot, but the first one, always the best one. Number 3 gets too much hate. 4 was pretty good. Wasn't a fan of the last one. Enter the Dragon, Bruce Lee, of course. You have to have him in there because that's one of his best. That is his best movie. The Toxic Avenger. I've not seen the other ones, the 2, 3, 4. So I've not seen those. The James Bond movies of Pierce Brosnan, I would say just GoldenEye, but the other ones are pretty decent to watch too. Dracula, mainly just the Dracula movie, the first one, but the other ones are okay to watch. Frankenstein, of course, too. Now, Frankenstein and the Bride of Frankenstein and Frankenstein meets the Wolfman. All those movies are definitely worth watching, especially the first two ones I mentioned. Because Frankenstein meets the Wolfman is their first horror movie crossover ever. The Mummy, that's another great one. Wolfman, that's a great one. The Invisible Man, of course, he doesn't. Him and the Creature of the Black Lagoon do not get enough credit. I mean, the Mummy. Oops. The Mummy and Dracula and Frankenstein's monster, they all get a lot of credit, but the Creature I feel like is underrated, and Invisible Man also. John Carpenter's They Live, that's a classic right there, and it didn't do great at the box office for some reason. My dad likes this movie, my mom likes this movie, I like this movie, my brother hasn't seen it yet, so he probably will like this movie. Django Unchained, I should have got this one on Blu-ray, but I have not gotten this one on Blu-ray. Tarantino Strikes Again. Maybe my favorite Jamie Foxx movie. Misery. Oh man, this is a good one too. Home Alone. Probably the best Christmas movie ever made. Well, yeah, it basically is. It's probably my favorite or my second favorite, but Home Alone 2 is underrated. I don't have the other ones because the rest of them, if it ain't Macaulay Culkin, it's not Home Alone, in my opinion. You know, they ain't, it's not Macaulay Culkin, it's not Home Alone. Edward Scissorhands, another Burton movie, one of my favorite Johnny Depp movies. The music is amazing. And lastly, The Temptations. This was basically a TV movie, but I really want this one on Blu-ray. I love this movie. It's one of my favorite movies of all time, too. It has obviously good music, but the acting from Leon and all the other cast members, Oscar worthy. And sadly, this movie didn't get any. I don't think it did, but it should have got an award for how good this movie was, but that is all the movies that you should watch that I own. I probably could have squeezed in a few more other movies, but I I like Machete or something or some other movies, the other horror movies, but I mainly will say all of these movies. But maybe I might do a part two of this, maybe another day. But